franchise and everybody in the league knows that when number 90 is playing a 200-foot hockey game, the St. Louis Blues are incredibly difficult to beat because he sets the tone. So I've just been remarkably impressed. Rapper, we got you here?
Yeah, I'm here, brother.
So, I mean, you tell me. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly, this guy, I mean, the deal, we talked a lot about the trade, right? But last night, I mean, that is exactly why he is a championship caliber player.
Yeah, and it's the little things in his game. You see the crazy training videos. You hear about the mental exercises he puts himself through, and obviously his father helps him a lot with that too. So it's just the little things. And even last night in Perron's post game, you hear even when he's answering a question about Jake Allen and how Jake Allen prepares. He makes a little comment that just shows you, right? And there was another one, too, by Berube later, but he's talking about how hard Jake Allen works, and he just casually throws in, because, I'm out there with O'Reilly every day doing the goalie warm-up drills. You know what I mean? How many stories have you heard about O'Reilly's out there warming up goalies? O'Reilly's out there working with the young rookies after training camp practices. O'Reilly's out there doing crazy drills on balance beams with hockey sticks. This guy just does every single little thing he possibly can to be a champion, to be a winning type player. And you saw how important this was, that aspect was last year when this team was down in the dumps, couldn't get it figured out. The one constant they had every single night was the effort and the intensity that Ryan O'Reilly was bringing to the rink. So it can carry you. And then there was another one last night where Berube talked about the leadership qualities that O'Reilly has, and how he leads by performance and how he leads by example, and what a great job he does leading and getting out of guys' way just enough to kind of let them take the ring and run with it themselves a little bit. So he's been obviously more than advertised. You're getting the Ryan O'Reilly that we heard about in Colorado, obviously, not the Ryan O'Reilly that we saw in Buffalo. And as we've seen, Buffalo is a tough place to play these days. So Ryan O'Reilly, more than expected. And as you've said, I've said it a million times, Doug Armstrong, he really hit it out of the park on this. Even when you factor in the draft pick he gave up to make this deal happen, you won a Stanley Cup year one, and this guy was the catalyst for you. So aside from Jordan Binnington, the Conn Smythe winner last year, obviously most important player in the playoff and Stanley Cup run.
Let me see if I can play this cut. We got a lot of channels coming through the same board here, but let me see if I can play this cut, because you're right. This quote on Ryan O'Reilly's leadership and how infectious it is for the entire team is really important.
Well, yeah, he's a huge part of our team. There's a lot of other guys that are too. Like we really focus on a team first mindset, and he leads that. I think he's a real good leader that way. He understands that the team has to come first, and it's in a role we ask of a player, or just leadership on and off the ice. A lot of things play into it, but. He's, we were not happy after losing the first two games. Our team, we're a very competitive team, and he's a very competitive player. So, we weren't happy. We thought we played pretty good hockey, but they were better, a little bit better, and they beat us. So we had to play better, and we did. And he's provided a real good leadership that way.
Dave, don't you think you could hear that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Don't you think that is the fundamental difference in what the Blues changed throughout the course of their history last year, with the leadership and the accountability from the players? I mean, how many head coaches did they run through previously, and it was always the players pointing the finger back at whether it was Andy Murray or Ken Hitchcock or Davis Payne or this, that, or the other. And finally, once the players started taking on that internal leadership of we're going to manage our own room, and I think O'Reilly had a big say in that, that's why you get a guy like Jake Allen who doesn't pout when he goes to the bench and Jordan Binnington wins games. That's why you don't see Binnington pouting right now with Allen coming in. It is a different radical shift in leadership and mindset.
Yeah, and it's something that is infectious in that locker room when a guy is that accountable and that out there with the effort he's making. One, it's infectious in that, you want to do just as much because you want to be a good teammate, right? But two, you're almost forced to because the media is talking about how much of an effort Ryan O'Reilly's making all the time, right? So if you're not doing just as much or close to it, obviously the coach is going to look down and say, well, this guy's not working as hard. And you don't want to be that guy in a Craig Berube-led locker room that gets that look where he's not working, right? Because if you're not working for Chief, you're not playing, right? That's the one thing that Chief has always said. If you're not playing my type of hockey, if you're not going to play it the way we want to play it, then you're not going to play. And, it's a tone setter when Ryan O'Reilly goes out there and embodies that every single day. And you're right. That's why you see it spread throughout the lineup the way it has. And the goaltending situation here is obviously a shining example of two guys supporting each other. And you saw it with Allen and Elliott too, but it's a lot easier when you're not winning a Stanley Cup, right? It's a lot easier when the guy who's getting pulled didn't just win a Stanley Cup in his rookie freaking year, Brian Elliott and Jake Allen were kind of on equal footing because neither one of them had gone all the way. Now you've got a situation where Jordan Binnington just did it. And now he's saying it's Jake's net right now. And he's okay supporting Jake because of the way Jake supported him last year. And obviously, I haven't always been Jake's biggest fan. And that's never been about the guy he's been. That's never been about the kind of teammate he's been. It's always been about the consistency game to game and the mental aspect. You and I have talked about it many times on the air. And maybe now, Jake Allen, after seeing a Stanley Cup run happen right in front of his eyes and seeing the way Jordan Binnington kind of calmed himself and let that calmness carry him through that cup run, maybe he's seen what he needs to see now, and maybe Jake Allen is ready to make that kind of run. And because he was so supportive of Jordan Binnington last year and this nucleus that they have built, it's allowed him to grow as a player, and now you're seeing that positivity kind of affect him a whole year later, and it's affecting the Blues in a positive way too, because whether or not Jordan Binnington would have had the same result in Games 3 and Game 4, that doesn't matter because Jake Allen got the result. That's who the coach went with, and he's played really, really well.
This is a cut from the captain, Alex Pietrangelo, on how fortunate the team is to have the two-goalie tandem that they feature.
Well, it's professional. I mean, the way he prepares, even when he's not playing, the way he practices, the way he works with Benner and Davey. I mean, we got two guys that are, great goalies, and tonight was another prime example of it. And I think everyone knows the stories of what Jakey did last year to help Benner. So when you got two guys that are pros that are pushing each other, it's not easy. He hasn't played. I don't know if he played last year in the playoffs, but step in and play the way he's playing. It's fun to watch, and we're confident in both of those guys, and it's good to have that tandem because I know they push each other as well.
And man, I mean, that's a coach's dream,
right?
Hearing that from your captain. And, because Jake Allen could have very easily been bitter about last year. And I kept saying the whole time about Jake Allen how professional he's handled this. I mean, this guy is making a ton of money. Now, he's making a lot of money to sit on the bench, so don't feel too bad for him. But, man, it's easier said than done. How many athletes, it's almost become the norm to hear the athlete complain and bitch about not getting their playing time. And when you see it on the flip side, it's really refreshing.
Well, as a career lifelong backup goaltender, I can tell you there's a difference between being a starting caliber goaltender and sitting on the bench and being a guy who knows he's a backup and sitting on the bench. It was always easy for me knowing I wasn't better than the guy that was in front of me when I was sitting. But for Jake Allen, he's got to feel like he's just as good, and he's done it at a level in this league that shows that he is. Now, he hasn't gone and won a Stanley Cup, but that's just about all he hasn't done as far as showing his teammates. And the other aspect of this that I really, really like, and you heard it in the postgame last night, it was, guys like Perron, Petro, Steen, guys that have been around forever, they've seen the ups and downs that Jake Allen has gone through from his inception into this league, coming in that lockout shortened season when goalies were going down right and left, and he just got in, I think it was like for 13 games that year and played really, really well, but then the next year took the next step and so on and so forth. Then there was some backward steps. It's got to be cool for those guys who have been around Jake and are friendly with Jake and are close with Jake to see him having the success he's having now, even if it's only for 2 or 3 games and they get Binnington back in there. This is a positive for Jake Allen's career, and quite honestly, it's a positive for the St. Louis Blues because they've got to figure out a way to get guys under a cap that's not going to grow next year, and Jake Allen is making himself a very valuable commodity where you thought maybe Jake Allen might be a salary dump in the offseason to try to make room for that Petro contract. It might not only be a moving of salary situation, but it might also bring you a couple of very valuable pieces to build off of for the future. So Jake Allen's doing a lot of things for the St. Louis Blues on and off the ice right now.
Dave Rapp is our guest here out of the gates, breaking down the Blues' 3-1 victory over the Vancouver Canucks last night. You can follow him on Twitter at RapCitySTL, RAPP City STL. Something else that occurred last night in watching that game was not only the way that Ryan O'Reilly played, but how David Perron is feeding off of Ryan O'Reilly and the intuition that those two are playing. It's almost like they've got eyes in the back of their head. And when you start to get a scoring line that can do those sorts of things, watch out.
Yeah, and two high motor guys, too. You hear that all the time in different sports, and you don't hear it a lot in hockey because it seems like everyone's a high motor guy in hockey, right? But two guys that think fast and play fast, right? And two guys that can use each other's skill sets to make each other better. And now you're seeing how important a guy like Jaden Schwartz is when you add him to that mix as well. But here are two guys that have been together since they both got here, and they're doing a really good job of creating chemistry on the ice. And now you have that established first line that you can go to, and obviously you like to roll those four, but you want to have that first line that you can put out there in big-time situations. And as you saw last night and in Game 3, this O'Reilly-Perron line now with the addition of Schwartz is now pacing this forward group in a way that was very, very impressive last night, and they continue to impress me, not just in this playoff run and last playoff run, but what they're able to do game to game. These guys have really played together since the beginning, and they've had this chemistry since the beginning, and it's because they work the way they do in practice. It's because they're close off the ice. Obviously, you saw with all the Stanley Cup videos and the different features they did last offseason that Perron and O'Reilly are boys, right? And that chemistry shows through on the ice the same way it does when you see Schwartz and Shen on the ice. Those are two guys that are very, very close too, and obviously they're not playing together right now because you got to spread that top six out a little bit, and when they play together, there's natural chemistry. So when guys are close like that, man, this is the kind of sport where you can really build off that chemistry and have some really great results. I mean, a prime example of that, again, in Chicago, Kane and Taves over the years. They've been really, really good, and that's because they're really good friends off the ice.
Yeah, it really shows. The continuity is there's no question about it. When guys hang out around each other away from the rink, that bond really does carry itself to the rink. You can maybe fill me in on this, but didn't the Penguins have a situation a couple of years ago when they had both Fleury and Murray in net, and they were trying to decide who was going to be their starter? And maybe you can help me out with the specifics here, but it's that sort of feeling where you've got two goaltenders that are capable right now of carrying the torch.
Yeah, and you've also got a very similar situation in that there's an expansion draft coming again. So you're
going to lose one of them. You're going to lose Allen. I mean, let's just be honest.
Maybe you get rid of him beforehand. Maybe you make a move to maximize that asset before the expansion draft happens. Who knows? There's going to be suitors out there for Jake Allen if the Blues make him available, and who knows what happes now. Maybe they don't make him available. Maybe they want to hold on to him.
He's too expensive at $4 million or whatever he's making to be sitting on the bench.
Well, for one more year, though, I mean, if you envision a 3-year cup run and you want to make sure you're solid in goal for 3 years, maybe you eat the expense knowing you do let him walk at the end of the year because you're trying to keep that cup window as secure as possible. I'm not sure, but you're right, man. This looks, smells, and tastes a lot like the situation the Pittsburgh Penguins were in coming off their Stanley Cup run with a young Matt Murray and an established Fleury there. And Fleury goes to Vegas and helps them do what they do in their first year, obviously. So, yeah, this looks and smells very, very similar, and it's a great observation because the Blues are going to be now in an even more difficult position because whereas it was a foregone conclusion that Jake Allen was going to be moved this offseason to make space for the Petro contract, maybe now you try to get Petro to take a bridge deal, promises him more money on the back end because you tell him, hey, I want to keep this goaltending position solid for one more year so we can possibly go after another cup. Remember, it wasn't back-to-back cups for the Los Angeles Kings, another team that reminds me so much of this current Blues regime. It was win a cup, not win one, and then come back that second time in 3 years and win another one. So maybe Doug Armstrong has visions here, and maybe he wants to keep that goaltending position as secure as possible because, again, Jake Allen, an expensive backup, But when you're talking about how much total money they have committed to the position, they're really right on track with how much money they should have allocated to the position. And both guys, I'll remind you, going to become free agents, UFAs, at the same time when both contracts expire in 2 years. So the Blues might choose to hold on to these guys and make another decision at the end of these next 2 years. Who knows?
All right, two more for you. You bring up Pietrangelo. I thought Alex played a terrific hockey game last night, and one of the key differences for the Blues, I thought, was getting pucks to Markstrom from the blue line. They weren't getting blocked. They were getting them to the net, and then they were retrieving pucks in corners, which allowed for them to create offense in the zone, where a lot of times we were seeing one-and-dones, or in the worst-case scenario, we were seeing block shots and giving Vancouver odd man rushes the other way, and their speed was just too much to handle. But when those pucks get through and those shots have purpose, the Blues defensive players, whether it's Pietrangelo or Parayko or even Vince Dunn or Scandella, they can shoot the puck. And we saw too much hesitation in games 1 and 2, even in 3 at the end of regulation on the power play. I thought last night their shot selection was much better.
Yeah, and even the times when Scandella just let him fly. You mentioned it in the broadcast. I don't know if you're watching the local or the national broadcast, but on the local broadcast, Peng mentioned a couple times that he loved that Scandella just winds up and lets it fly. If you're going to lay down in front of every shot, I'm going to make it hurt, right? That's an old adage in the hockey game. If these guys want to lay down in front of shots, don't be afraid to hit them with one, and make it hurt. That's why I like Parayko, Petro, and even Scandella back there was the catalyst for it last night. Just letting it fly. You get that good dump. I love that point you made, because how many times have we talked about quality dump-ins as opposed to just dumping it in because you don't have any option, or because you get to the blue line and realize you can't dangle a guy and get zone entry off of a carry, and you just make a lazy dump because you know you're going to get stripped anyway. This was a quality forecheck that was getting possessions, kicking it back out to that blue line, and allowing, like you said, the Blues defense to activate. Get one defenseman activated into that play and get a high option where you can kick it out and then either get an opportunity off that shot where you kick it out high, or push that puck back down low and try to make something happen around the net where you got greasy players making greasy decisions like O'Reilly and Perron, getting in people's kitchens down there and making it happen. So you're right, man, and that's what happens when the Blues are winning. They get that puck in deep, they grab a possession, and they activate their D. When the Blues are winning games, how many times have we seen it? Their defense is scoring in bunches. Their defense is either activated in every play and making things happen from the blue line, or they're straight up just scoring and making it happen that way. So great points all around on that one. And, yeah, that's what it looks like when the Blues are playing right, because that forecheck, it really opens up so much for the offensive side of things, because it allows the defenseman to activate on the blue line, and it allows you to get one more guy in there on that play, especially if your center is down there working hard. He's got to play 200 feet. That having that first defenseman back in there activated with the forwards, it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off that center too, and it allows them to have another outlet.
Okay, one final cut here. This is David Perron talking about Jake Allen talking about how he could sense that the team was building towards the game that they eventually got to last night.
Yeah, I thought after game 1, game 2, we got better. Game 3, we got better, and tonight we got even better. So I think the game's building in the right direction. The guys are playing hard, playing smart. Our PK was good tonight, and so I think definitely momentum, building a little bit of momentum in our game and some confidence. Obviously it wasn't easy to go the first 4 or 5 games here, round robin playoffs without a win. So just to build some confidence here is huge.
Okay, I was watching the national feed. Pierre Maguire had an epic line. He goes, "The St. Louis Blues are running the Tour de France tonight. They're cycling all over the Vancouver Canucks." And they were. I mean, it was just everything was crisper last night. It was a lot closer to what you would expect of a reigning Stanley Cup champion team.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And Berube mentioned this every post-game presser he's had this far. He goes, we're building there. We're getting there. The game looks pretty much like we wanted to. We just got a couple of more changes to make. And that's what you saw last night was the result of them building. Just like Jake Allen said, they found their game. And I love that line. That is a great line. They were. And how many times has Berube talked about, we're going to win with puck possession. We're going to grind teams into submission. And when you're playing a very fast team like that, that's going to be the way you keep the puck away from them, by grinding them down and holding on to the puck. in the offensive end, man. It's what Blues hockey looks like, and obviously you've seen it in Game 3 and Game 4. That's why I've always said it doesn't really matter who the Blues are playing. It's a matter of them getting to their game, and when they get to their game, man, they're champs for a reason. You saw it in Game 3 and Game 4.
Rapper, great stuff, man. I like this setup because we can play sound and then kind of play off it this way.
We're radio professionals, man. We're really good at radio. If anybody's listening out there, these two can make it happen.
Did you hear my new intro, by the way, on the way? Or you probably didn't get audio because I didn't admit you into
Yeah, you didn't get me in soon enough.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
All right, well, we'll talk Thursday because the Blues play Wednesday night, another late one, 9:30. So maybe tonight you can get some sleep.
Sounds good, brother. I need it with these kids and late hockey games. I've had enough. Also, Vancouver people are coming after me in droves for the Twitter comment about the game time. I'm getting messages. I'm getting lit up. I'm getting crazy fans. Well, Vancouver's playing on the same ice. I bet those same people are going to DM me today. Be like, yeah, that ice sucks. You're right. Now that this series is tied, that ice is terrible, and we hate everything about it.
And one thing I've learned about folks from Vancouver, they're tough on Twitter, but when you go to Vancouver, they're a lot softer. A lot softer. They're like the fries that they put gravy over,
Right,
and they just
poutine.
melt underneath. No crisp.
Don't they, ship their homeless to an island somewhere, too? Didn't they do that for the Olympics? They just gathered up all the homeless people and shipped them to an island somewhere. Good for you, Canada.
Dude, let me tell you
just hide them, right?
Vancouver, the hotel that the visiting team stay in, the Westin Bayshore, is flat out, just stunning.
Oh, I bet.
That was my first experience on a charter plane with the St. Louis Blues.
How about that?
Living like a king in Vancouver. And there's an awesome little restaurant right there on the shore that there was a guy who was covering some Neil Young. He was sitting there playing, and good times. Gosh, that's when I was living like a rock star, 20 years old.
You had it. See, at least you had that period of time. I never had that period of time.
Yeah.
I just hang out with a bunch
peak.
of former hockey players that, that's it. I don't get to do any of the cool stuff. They don't start talking to me until after they've retired. That's the rule around here. You're not allowed to talk to Rap until you've retired. Then you can be friends with Rap.
Well, see, you really chose the media profession, though. I went down the route of technician, so I was more, housed in the on-air broadcast side, which is really funny because the media and the broadcasters have two vastly different relationships with players.
Right,
and
I always say I'm not a media person. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a writer. I'm a talk show host, right? I try to people. You're in the media, dude. I'm like, I'm a talk show host,
You're a journalist,
right? I'm not a journalist, and I've never claimed to be, and I'm never gonna be. I've always said I'm more WWE than I am ESPN, baby. You got to entertain the people, as Dusty Rhodes used to say, baby. You got to entertain them people. Put the butts in seats. Draw some money.
Rapper, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for your time, man. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, brother. Talk soon.
All right, that's Dave Rapp. Follow him on Twitter at RapCitySTL. You hear him here a lot. Actually, we've missed him because there's been no hockey, but it's good to have the great game of hockey back. And we will take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to go around Major League Baseball. Lots of highlights last night. This Tatis character, holy